Okay, let's talk about student loan forgiveness for a minute because there's a lot of information out there and there's a lot of confusion about what is and isn't happening, which is understandable because there's a lot to keep track of. So let's rewind for a minute. So during campaign season, the president talked about potentially wanting to forgive up to $10,000. And so a lot of people have that number in their mind. And at that time, when Joe was elected, he asked his Secretary of Education to investigate whether legally he, through executive action, so not through a bill that goes through Congress, could unilaterally forgive a whole bunch of federal student loans. And really nothing fruitful has come out of that, and he hasn't taken that action. Other members of Congress are in favor of even larger amounts, and as recently as this week, have proposed new bills to try to forgive even larger amounts than that, but those would have to be voted through the House and the Senate, which thus far hasn't looked super likely. So if you've been hearing about forgiveness, you've probably been and kind of wondering what's happening as you've heard of some things being forgiven. What you've probably heard about is some specific targeted instances that have happened. So one was related to Americans with disabilities. One was related to trying to make it a little bit more realistic for public servant loan forgiveness to be achieved, since that's actually achieved a very small percentage of the time that people think they're on track to do that. Another one is related to specific colleges that defrauded students somehow, or situations that were very specific like that. There hasn't been anything done that's just broad across the board. Here's a number off everybody's bill. So the reason I'm thinking about this today is folks have pointed out that the State of the Union address just happened and there was no mention of student loan forgiveness there, and people kind of anticipated there would be. So some people are taking that as a sign, another sign that momentum has slowed on some kind of mass forgiveness. So what does that leave us with today to kind of keep in mind? What do we need to know to be able to make decisions going forward? One thing that I would caution, we don't know what the government's going to do, but I would caution that even if the political climate changes to where it's either somehow determined to be legal via executive action, or the majority of Congress decides they actually do want to do this and it passes, then it may be targeted. There's a decent chance it's going to be targeted just towards undergraduate loans. So if your graduate borrow, it doesn't help you. And it may not be all of the debt that you owe, right? So if it's 10,000 or 5,000, you have more than that, okay, doesn't totally solve your problem. So what do you need to keep in mind then? There's two things that I would really recommend. First is making sure that you understand the plan that you're in and the implications, because maybe the plan that you started in right out of school was a good plan for you, but now that your income has changed, the amount that you owe has changed, your family has changed, etc., that plan may be horrible for you. And guess what? The government is not going to ping you and say, hey, actually, you're going to be screwed if you stay on this plan. I've seen people who believe they were, and maybe they were at one point on track for forgiveness, but things have changed and now they're not. And that can really be very, very hurtful to your financial situation. If you end up being on this plan for 20 years just to realize, oh wait, I'm not going to get forgiveness, or oh wait, this isn't playing out how I thought it was, now I'm paying all this extra money. So that would be the first thing to understand. The second one would be to have a cash flow plan in place that allows you to start making payments aggressively on your loans. It's only a couple more months until payments are going to resume, and I wouldn't recommend waiting on the government to solve the problem, because you don't know what they're going to do. And again, even if they do some forgiveness, let's say you have 50,000 in loans and they forgive 10 of that, okay, well, it's not like you needed to wait to hear that to make a plan to be able to pay the other 40. So if you're not really too clear on what plan you have or how to compare what plans would be best for you, call me, I'll help you through it. If you're not sure how to make a cash flow plan so you can get out of debt faster, call me, I'll help you through it. I do this all the time. And I'm not kidding. Even with a pretty average or low amount of debt, choosing the right plan and making a cash flow plan, the right payment plan and making a cash flow plan literally can be the difference of $10,000. If you are a larger borrower, 50, 100,000 or more, holy smokes, like these are massive, like tens of thousands of dollars implications on your life. You don't want to screw this one up. So there's some thoughts on student loans, where we're at for forgiveness as of early 2022. If you have questions about any of that, feel free to just shoot me a message, a DM, and I'll be happy to try to help any way I can.